Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss an article in which it describes a supposed threat from a Trump ally, Lindsay Graham, to the UK government that if it complies with the recent ICC arrest warrants with regards to the Israelis named on them, then they will crush our economy. In reality, it's not clear really how much of a threat this is when Trump's policies already pose enough of a threat to us to be making more efforts to work more closely with both the EU and China to weather the storm. And the greatest harm, of course, will come to the American economy. But Graham seems to think of trade as being somehow a gift to the world rather than a mutually beneficial arrangement. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel. So after the ICC arrest warrants, as far as I can tell, the signatories who have said they will not honour their international commitments are Argentina, Hungary and Germany. So because there was only a smattering of resistance to the moves by the ICC, American politicians, most especially Republicans, have flipped their lids. Lindsay Graham has said that anyone who complies with the warrant will face severe economic sanctions and that he plans to legislate preemptively to do this. In reality, he's just blowing off steam because nobody named on the arrest warrants is going to be stupid enough to travel to a country which is a signatory to the Rome Statute, especially one where the government has said they will not be blocking the ICC. So it's a purely hypothetical situation. However, we may suppose that even the fact the UK government, for example, has said that it respects the independence of the ICC and will not be blocking its work. In other words, if Netanyahu, Gallant or the maybe still alive Mohammed Diaf were to rock up to the UK and the ICC said, yeah, can you detain those please? They will be detained. But they won't. Netanyahu, especially, like his primary motivation, although there are others, for his campaign of ethnic cleansing is to create the conditions for widespread war to keep at bay the prospect of going to prison in his own country. He's hardly likely to turn himself into a criminal court where the evidence against him is very strong and he ends up in prison in another country. But what if the United States doesn't simply take action if the warrant is executed, which is not going to be, but against any country which sides with the ICC, where even hypothetically they will exercise the warrant? Because Lindsay Graham's outbursts and proposed legislation are, performative. They have no practical effect, but Trump is expected to start applying his famous tariff program over the first half of next year. And you may be thinking, well, why would it take him 6 months? He could do it immediately, couldn't he? Yeah, he could. It's believed that he wants to try his hand at running an extortion racket first. So he intends to approach various governments over this 6 months and say to them, oh, yeah, I don't want to apply tariffs to you, of course. So what are you going to give me in return? Now, negotiating to give Trump something he wants but doesn't really cost the providing country much, you would do that. But each country which engages in this game of cat and mouse is going to need to have a very clear idea of the actual cost of the tariffs and the cost of what's being demanded in tribute. If the latter exceeds the former, obviously not going to be worth it. You just have to say, okay, you just have to put your tariffs on. It's a bit silly. It's going to hurt you as well. But, if you insist. Besides, what's to stop Trump taking his spoils and then threatening the tariffs again a year later when he's got another bee in his bonnet about something? The thing is about appeasing is they always come back for more. Another thing to consider is Trump's threats to simply take over foreign assets in America. He said there shouldn't be like German car factories in America, for example, that they should be American and he should just take them over. He said that. He said, we will take over the factories. Now, as usual, just because he says a thing doesn't mean he'll try and do it. And just because he tries to do a thing doesn't mean he'll be able to. America still has some laws in place, I believe. But if there was a credible threat of this happening, and it has happened in other countries, advanced countries, what would be the result? Well, we don't need to speculate because we've seen it in one of those advanced economies, Hungary. There, the threat of having assets taken over and funds seized for Hungarian oligarchs meant that foreign capital was transferred to other countries. Oligarchy reduces the potential for foreign investment, which hits job growth apart from anything else. Now, sure, if foreign investors like German car manufacturers have to pull out of America, that's really bad for their company value and the home country, but it's way worse for America. Even Trump's tariffs, when you look at the projections, are clearly bad for the major economies which will be hit, but the United States takes the biggest hit of all. Because trade is a two-way beneficial process. If America restricts imports, it means that Americans that have to restrict their consumer choice. Manufacturers lose out of parts. That's American manufacturers. They lose out on the parts and materials that they need, or they have to pay a lot more for them. And even where it gives an American manufacturer a boost, because that's Trump's intention. Oh, well, we'll give a boost to American providers. Well, think about what that does for the public. It means they have to turn to a product that is either lower quality or more expensive, because if the US produced version was good and inexpensive, well, Americans wouldn't be buying imports, would they? So Trump's plans will reduce the number of jobs, strangle wage growth, savagely cut public services, and mean that Americans will have to pay more for less. Oh, proper man of the people stuff there. But that's for Americans. They can think about what they did over the next few years at the ballot box. What about those elsewhere who did not decide the next presidency? Well, the UK government is putting in lots of efforts to dodge the tariffs. It may be futile, but it would be irresponsible not to try. But I just think about the growing list of demands that Trump might make in return for not applying his tariffs to the UK. He's already said he wants the UK to not be so close to the EU. Labour have consistently indicated that they're not going to be they are going to be getting as close to the EU as possible. They're not going to have that derailed, because their manifesto promise for a start made it clear, and also it seems that their future economic plans rely on it as well. The news of the hire of a lead EU negotiator this weekend is further evidence that they're not going to be derailed. He may now say that we have to disown the ICC as well. Well, this will also not be occurring. Keir Starmer's made it clear that his government respects the law, including international law. And it's not just words. I mean, words are easy, right? You can change your words. The fact he installed a non-politician to the role of Attorney General speaks volumes. It may well have been a former colleague of Starmer's, but, a political appointment can be coerced into softening a stance when the government is looking to break the law. I remember a few years ago, Theresa May, Geoffrey Cox was the Attorney General, and Theresa May was trying to get him to say that something was legal when he was going, I'm not sure this is. And although he wouldn't lie to Parliament about it, he nonetheless smudged it. He agreed to smudge it. Because why? He's a politician with political ambitions. Richard Casey is not going to do that. He's not trying to climb a political ladder. If the government tries to break the law, he will say so. And he will resign if they ignore him. His legal reputation's too important to go along with any law breaking. So we're not going to be bullied into distancing ourselves from the EU, where Labour's plans basically rely on closer relations. We're not going to be trashing international law. We also can't offer too many concessions with an economic price, because our economy is fragile enough. So it may well be that we're essentially pinning our hopes on dangling the carrot of a state visit and posh dinner at Buckingham Palace. And if that doesn't work, well, never mind the EU. Labour have been making much friendlier noises towards China recently. Now, if that is not a sign that they're trying to avoid a schism with Trump's administration, but prepared to accept one if necessary, I don't know what is. And what Trump may need a harsh lesson in before long is that there's a reason why countries are often very coy about imposing economic sanctions against other countries, even when there's a strong moral compulsion to do so. For example, think, why was it that in Europe we weren't applying economic sanctions to Russia years and years and years ago when he was nibbling away at Eastern Europe? Why didn't we do that? Because it would have hurt their economies. It hits your economy to apply sanctions. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, you can join for memberships. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'll see you later.